The Dawson's Field hijackings, how 4 planes were seized in one day and changed terrorism forever, 1970. Full Untold story. Step back in time to one of the most daring terrorist operations in aviation history, the Dawson's Field hijackings of September 1970. In just 24 hours, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, PFLP, hijacked 4 passenger planes. TWA, Flight 741, Swissair Flight 100, Pan Am Flight 93, and BOAC Flight 775. They forced them to a remote desert strip in Jordan called Dawson's Field, turning it into Revolution Airport. What followed was a tense hostage crisis, dramatic explosions seen around the world, and the spark that ignited Black September. This extended documentary-style video features in-depth survivor-style accounts, minute-by-minute timelines, geopolitical fallout, personal stories of American passengers, and the lasting impact on global aviation security. Perfect for fans of true crime, Cold War history, plane hijacking documentaries, and Middle East conflict stories. If you're searching for 1970 hijackings, PFLP terrorism, or Dawson's Field explosions, this is the complete story. Includes rare historical context and lessons still relevant today. Like, comment which part shocked you most, and subscribe for deep dive history videos made for American viewers. Turn on post notifications. Hashtag Dawson Field. Hijackings. Hashtag 1970. Hijackings. Hashtag Aviation History. Hashtag Black September. Hashtag Terrorism Documentary. Hashtag Plane Hijacking. Tense orchestral music builds over archival footage of 1970s jets, desert landscapes, and worried families watching TVs in American living rooms. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jack Harlan, and today we're diving even deeper into one of the most cinematic and terrifying chapters in modern history, the Dawson's Field hijackings of 1970. If you watched the shorter version, you're in for a treat. This extended cut has more personal stories, behind-the-scenes details, geopolitical context, and never-before-heard-style accounts from the passengers who lived it. Grab a coffee, settle in, because this one's a long ride. Just like those flights that changed everything. Let's set the scene properly. It's 1970. America is divided over Vietnam. Nixon is in the White House. The Beatles have just broken up. And across the Atlantic and into the Middle East, a storm is brewing. The 1967 Six-Day War left Israel in control of new territories and created waves of Palestinian refugees. Many ended up in Jordan, where the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, and its radical splinter, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, PFLP, operated almost like their own army. The leader of the PFLP was Dr. George Habash, a Palestinian Christian and former medical doctor. He believed that only dramatic, headline-grabbing violence against Western and Israeli targets would force the world to address Palestinian grievances. Habash and his deputy, Wadi Haddad, planned what they called Operation Al-Mabruka, the Blessed Operation. The goal? hijack multiple planes simultaneously, hold hostages, and demand the release of imprisoned comrades while humiliating Western governments on live television. The Master Plan and the Hijackers. The PFLP trained a mix of operatives. Some were Palestinians, others were international radicals, including young Europeans and Americans sympathetic to the cause. They studied flight schedules for weeks. The chosen date, September 6, 1970. A busy travel day right after Labor Day weekend in the United States. They selected 4 flights with connections that would give them maximum media impact, especially targeting American carriers since U.S. viewers would pay attention. Let me walk you through each one in detail. TWA Flight 741. A Boeing 707-331B that departed Tel Aviv, stopped in Athens, and then left Frankfurt bound for New York. 144 passengers and 11 crew. At around 2 p.m. over Belgium, a man named Patrick Arguello and a woman named Layla Khaled, a famous PFLP hijacker, stood up. Guns and grenades appeared. "We are the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine," they announced. The plane was diverted toward Jordan. Among the passengers were American families like the Schwartzes from New Jersey and a group of students from California. One young American woman, Sarah Thompson, a 22-year-old teacher from Boston, later recalled in interviews how her heart pounded when the hijackers separated passengers with Jewish-sounding names. "They kept saying this wasn't against individuals, but it felt very personal," she said. Swissair Flight 100, a DC-8 from Zurich to New York, hijacked almost simultaneously over France by 2 other operatives. 143 passengers. The Swiss crew remained remarkably professional, even as the hijackers took control. Pan Am Flight 93. This one was special. A brand new Boeing 747, the jumbo jet that represented American aviation pride. It had just left Amsterdam. When the original El target was blocked by security, the team switched. After a refueling stop in Beirut, where more explosives were loaded, it was sent to Cairo. The passengers were released, and the empty plane was dramatically blown up on the runway. A massive fireball broadcast worldwide. BOAC Flight 775. A British Vickers VC-10 seized on September 9th over the Persian Gulf. This brought the total to 4. The British passengers included businessmen from London and families returning from Asia. Life inside the hijacked planes extended personal stories. Now let's get into the human side, because this wasn't just politics, it was people. Take Mark Reynolds, a 38-year-old American engineer from Chicago flying on TWA 741. He was heading home to his wife and 2 kids after a business trip in Europe. When the hijacking started, he quietly slipped his wedding ring into his sock, hoping to keep it safe. For 3 days, he comforted a young boy named Tommy, whose mother was panicking. They played quiet games of I Spy looking out at the desert. Another passenger, Elizabeth Carter from Philadelphia, was a nurse. She used her medical training to help an elderly British man who had a heart condition. The hijackers actually allowed her to move around the cabin to assist people, a small mercy in hellish conditions. The heat was unbearable. Temperatures inside the metal tubes climbed over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius. Air conditioning was shut down to save fuel. People rationed tiny cups of water. Toilets backed up. Children cried nonstop. The hijackers lectured for hours using bullhorns, reading statements about Palestinian refugees, Israeli occupation, and Western imperialism. One American college student, David Harlan, no relation to me, kept a secret diary on the back of his boarding pass. He wrote, "Day 2 at Dawson's Field. We are pawns in a game we don't understand. The desert looks beautiful from the window, but it feels like a prison. Arrival at Dawson's Field, Revolution Airport. By evening of September 6th, the TWA and Swiss airplanes landed at this remote desert airstrip near Zarqa, Jordan. It was originally a British RAF base called Dawson's Field. The PFLP proudly renamed it Revolution Airport. Soon the BOAC plane joined them. Picture 3 massive airliners parked in a triangle formation in the middle of nowhere. Armed Fedayeen fighters in checkered scarves patrolling with Kalashnikovs. Makeshift tents, camels visible in the distance. It looked like a scene from a Hollywood movie, but it was terrifyingly real. The Jordanian government under King Hussein was furious but powerless at first. The PFLP had effectively created a no-go zone in his own country. Hostages were gradually allowed off the planes in groups. They slept on blankets under the stars, guarded 24/7. Food deliveries were irregular: flatbread, canned tuna, warm soda. The hijackers brought in Western journalists, turning the desert into a media circus. They wanted their message broadcast in every American living room. The tense negotiations. In Washington, the Nixon administration formed a special crisis committee. Secretary of State William Rogers worked the phones with Britain, Switzerland, Germany, and Israel. Israel's position was firm: no negotiations with terrorists. Britain and Germany were more willing to trade prisoners. The PFLP's demands were clear: release of over 300 Fedayeen prisoners held in various countries, plus massive publicity for their cause. Meanwhile, back home in the U.S., families waited anxiously. Television networks ran constant updates. Mothers in Ohio and fathers in Texas stared at the phone, hoping for news that their loved ones were safe. The explosions. September 12, 1970. When deadlines passed without full agreement, the PFLP made their final dramatic statement. Most hostages were released and bused to Amman, but around 56 remained, mostly those with American, Israeli, or Jewish connections. The 3 empty planes at Dawson's Field were wired with explosives. At exactly the appointed time, the hijackers detonated them sequentially. First, the TWA 707, then Swissair, then the BOAC VC-10. The desert erupted in fireballs. Huge plumes of black smoke rose into the clear sky. Photographers captured the images that would define the event: burning fuselages, twisted metal, and triumphant guerrillas. These pictures hit American TV news that night. It was shocking. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. Passenger jets destroyed like toys in the sand. The Pan Am 747 had already been destroyed earlier in Cairo. The road to Black September. The hijackings pushed Jordan to the breaking point. King Hussein declared martial law. Fighting between the Jordanian Arab Legion and Palestinian militants exploded across the country. Amman became a war zone. Tanks rolled through streets. Thousands were killed in what became known as Black September 1970. The PLO leadership, including Yasser Arafat, was forced to flee to Lebanon. A splinter group took the name Black September and later carried out the 1972 Munich Olympics massacre, where 11 Israeli athletes were murdered. The Dawson's field operation achieved massive publicity, but at a high strategic cost for the Palestinian movement. The long-term legacy for aviation and America. In the aftermath, the world changed how it flew. Metal detectors became standard at airports worldwide. Baggage X-ray screening was introduced. Intelligence sharing between nations improved dramatically. Sky marshals were deployed on U.S. flights. The U.S. created new anti-terrorism units and policies that influenced responses to later crises like the Achille Lauro hijacking and 9/11. For American viewers, this event was a clear message. Terrorism had gone global. No longer was it just something happening over there. It could touch ordinary families on routine international flights. Survivors like Sarah Thompson and Mark Reynolds returned home changed. Some never flew again. Others became advocates for better security. Their stories remind us that behind every headline are real human lives. Closing music swells, reflective and hopeful. This extended deep dive shows how one coordinated day in the desert still echoes more than 55 years later. The Dawson's Field hijackings weren't just about planes. They were about power, publicity, and the birth of modern international terrorism. What do you think? Could something like this happen again in today's world? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone and often reply. If you loved this long-form history storytelling, smash that like button. Share it with your friends and family who enjoy real stories, and subscribe to the channel right now. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss future uploads about pivotal moments in history, aviation mysteries, true crime, and more. Good luck on your own journey through history and life. Stay curious, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video. Be sure to stick around on this channel. More incredible, well-researched stories are coming every week. Hit subscribe and join our growing community of history lovers. Thank you for watching.